What's the worst thing you've ever been accused of while being completely innocent? Story 1 posted this before, but seems relevant. I was fighting with my brother, realized the fight was dumb, so I just went to my room. My brother decided to punch himself and blame me. My mom is yelling at me and grounding me. I can't believe you did that to your brother, blah, blah, blah. So I figured if I was about to get in trouble for it, I should actually do it. I turn around and actually clock my brother in the face, to which he responded, "I can't believe she actually did that," and my mom realized he had been lying. I ended up not getting in trouble. Story 2, drugs. Shockingly enough, my parents' divorce made me act out at 9 years old. And I kept distracting other kids in class. My mom was convinced it was because I was doing drugs and yanked hair out of my head and made me get blood tested. They found nothing because I was 9 years old. Story 3, I was accused of destroying a window at school by dropping a rock from a higher floor. Interrogated by the principal, parents were called, friends had to fund the repairs. Bullied on the bus. It sucked. Found out who was 2 years later, but by then nobody cared. Story 4, I helped a friend of my mother move when I had just turned 18 for no pay, and this lady accused me of stealing one of her guns. I booked it straight to the police department to explain the situation. When she tried to report me, they told her she was crazy. They already spoke to me, and that criminals that steal guns don't go directly to the police. Story 5, this is tame compared to others in this thread, but it's one that has stuck with me for ages. When I was really little, around 6, my aunt was babysitting me. My sweet dog was shedding fur. My aunt accused me of cutting her fur. She had me across her knee, saying she wouldn't spank me if I admitted it. I was sobbing uncontrollably because I loved my dog. We were the same age, and she was like a second mom and would never do that to her. My mom came home not long after, and I do remember her being livid. Despite my issues with my mom, she never once laid a hand on me. My mom couldn't believe that her sister never comprehended that animals shed fur in clumps. Story 6, probably kicking my young son. I was carrying something like hot tea or soup, and he went to grab me. So I put my knee out to stop him getting close to me and scalding himself. But for some reason, everyone else in the room thought I kicked him or kneed him. Very strange situation. Story 7, when I was 16, I was riding with a friend back to another friend's house, and the cops pulled him over. I had nothing on me. He, unbeknownst to me, threw a bag of coke underneath my chair. Cops found it, put us both in jail, took him to County 17, yo. Took me to Juvie 16, yo. He got out before me and hired a lawyer, pinned it on me through family connections. Got the charges reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor because I was a good kid, and it showed. Ruined my life for a good 5 years. Just heard that the kid all grown up broke into his ex-GFS house to steal drugs and is pretty much a burnout loser. I'm applying for law school next spring. Story 8, drugs. When I was in high school, I had a very monotonous voice that my parents thought was fake, and anytime we were out, they would ask someone to tell me what I sound like because they thought that if I was embarrassed enough, I would talk normally. Instead, it made me talk less and me shut out some of my friends in my life. When they realized I wasn't talking, they jumped to conclusions and accused me of doing drugs. What really made them think I was doing drugs was when I lost 20 in my school's picnic. They were constantly counting my money to see if they can prove I was doing drugs and realized that I was missing 40 and told me to tell them what happened to it. I explained to them that I had a picnic at school and brought 40 with me, but lost half of it. They said my story didn't add up, so they started to rummage through my backpack and room anytime I wasn't at home and would ask for the names of my friends and anyone that I was talking to so that they could run background checks on them. Story 9, had just moved to a new school in 5th grade, was never great at making new friends, so I thought I'd sugar them up by bringing sugar mixed with Kool-Aid, something that was popular in my old school. Who doesn't love a bunch of 10-year-olds licking their fingers and dipping them in a baggie of sugar? Apparently, an older kid had given several first graders heroin during this time, and it got pegged on me. I was removed from class. Police came. I cried like it because I didn't understand why they thought my grape Kool-Aid was heroin. I kept telling them to taste it. The principal finally did and realized I was telling the truth. Awesome first week of school. Story 10, I was 14 and had just started to learn how to use a digital camera. The only one I had at the time was my mom's. Sometime after my birthday, the SD card that was my mom's went missing. My dad immediately went to blame me for it, and my mom was hoping I didn't do it. After over an hour of interrogating me, we still couldn't find it. Come to find out, my mom had put it in her normal place of valuables. She keeps it in. I didn't even get an apology yet at spelling. Story 11, in 3rd grade, I walked to a convenience store with 2 and spent 20 minutes trying to decide what candy to get, picking things up and putting them back. The old lady clerk accused me of stealing and said it'd never come back. That was a bit problematic, given it was the only gas station in my small town, and I've moved back and been living here for the last 15 years. Story 12, we lived in a townhome condo complex. My mom was fighting with the board over misused funds. When she was at work, there was a knock at our door. One of the neighbors had an emergency and asked if I could come and watch her kids while she went to the hospital. Sure, I was 16 and had been babysitting for 4 years. I spent a few hours looking after 2 cute kids, 35. I got home before my mom. We started dinner, and there was a knock at the door. It was a pair of police. The mother had gone to the police station and accused me of abusing her 3-year-old. She said that I hit her and locked her in the dryer for several hours. My mom asked the cop if he was insane. She pointed out that I was the kid who picked caterpillars off the walk and put them on the grass, so people didn't step on them. She asked the cops to point out the complainant. When he pointed, my mom asked me if I was crazy because that's the woman who stole fun from the condo board. Why would I go there? I said I didn't know that, and that she said she had to go to the hospital immediately because her dad had had a heart attack. The cops said they would be back. They came back an hour later and said I would not need to come with them after all. Turns out Dad was alive and well. I wasn't so well after having a full-blown panic attack for an hour. Story 13, my sister's friend who lived with my family for a while, when we were like 15 to 18, accused me of rape. She told my dad, my stepmom, my sister, all her friends and my friends at our school that I raped her. I had to find out because people were coming up to me in the halls ready to throw hands. I found her during lunch and confronted her in front of all her friends and asked why people thought I raped her. She ended up admitting that she made it up because she had a huge crush on me. She also later accused my older brother, my best friend, her ex-boyfriend, and another guy. She is a very toxic person. Story 14, when I was 11, I was accused by a babysitter that I was molesting my sister when I was really playing my Nintendo DS with her. It was completely unbelievable because she said that she made it all up because she didn't want to change diapers. She got fired by my mom, and the last I saw her, she was living in her car. Story 15, I was 9 and a Girl Scout. I was attending a Girl Scout camp, and the leader accused me of throwing trash around the campsite. She made me sit in a chair in the corner of a building. I remember crying over the whole situation. For the record, I didn't throw trash around the campsite. The leader was a mean woman. Story 16, I know this is ridiculous, but in 2nd grade, another child accused me of calling my teacher, and no one believed me when I claimed innocence, and I got a spanking and was forced to apologize. I felt so powerless because since all the adults believed I was guilty, in effect, I think I'm still a little mad about it. Edit holy. This is now my highest upvoted Reddit post. Story 17, wife and I were asleep in bed. And when we woke up, she rolled over to get out of bed. She hit her eye on the corner of her nightstand, and it left a sick, nasty, bruise-cut black eye for about a week. I had friends asking me if I hit her, and one friend gave me the business, saying it's not cool to hit your wife. That friend actually beats his wife. Edit wow, this blew up overnight. Let me clarify some things I should have in the original post. I found out about the EX friend's abusive behavior towards his wife long after he and I stopped talking to each other. We still have some mutual friends in common, and that's how I found out. Yes, we've contacted the police multiple times, but alas, the evidence just isn't enough for an arrest or conviction or what have you. The straw that broke the camel's back was he and I got into a physical altercation one time. Yes, there was alcohol involved, but I still had my wits about me. He, out of the blue, decked me in the face to get together, and I got him on the ground and broke that same arm he used to hit me with an arm bar, was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. I regret it. And I'm sure he does too. After that, zero contact. Story 18, I was accused of plot and shoot on my high school 2 separate times. Guess that's what I get for being the really quiet kid, but in my defense, I was just really high all the time, lol. Story 19, pedophilia. But only because the person is legitimately crazy and thinks the only reason a male would become a teacher is because they are into kids. Story 20, my mom accused me of smoking weed back in high school because she found a matchbook in my pants. I only had the matchbook because it had a funny Mexican man on it, so I decided to pocket it. My real crime was racism stereotyping, I guess. Story 21, my father was accused of murdering the neighbor's dog and disposing it at a remote beach. When I was a kid, we had a rocky relationship with one of the neighbors because they had a yappy dog that they took very poor care of. It drove the whole street mad, but for some reason it never got taken away by animal control. A few years ago, my parents moved to another part of town. Afterwards, Dad worked on the old house to get it ready to sell. One day, he was on the driveway. When the neighbors left in their car, they made eye contact. Then, when the neighbors returned, their dog was inexplicably missing. They instantly accused Dad of sneaking over and butchering the dog because he had enough of it. He tried to explain that an animal control van had briefly come through the street shortly after they left, but they weren't having a bar of it. They were so convinced he had done something, they started a massive social media campaign to pressure him into admitting it, including invading all the local community groups and outing him. They even went so far as to drive an hour out of town to the beach we often go to in the weekends to put up posters. It was wild, stressful, and stupid. It only stopped after he picked up a lawyer and sent a cease and desist letter threatening to take them to court for public defamation. The dog was never found, and apparently they have 2 new ones now. This was also the same family that found someone's lost cat and decided to keep it. Story 22. In 4th grade, someone kept stealing mouse from the computer lab. I remember our teacher warning us about it. One day my teacher pulled me aside and told me that someone had accused me of being the mouse ball thief. It was a guy I was friendly with but not friends with, kind of an outcast. I assured him this was totally false, and I think he believed me. I was a mostly good kid. The next day at school, I look inside my pencil box, and what do I find but a mouse ball sitting inside and freaking out. I go up to the teacher, probably talking a million miles an hour about how I didn't steal the mouse ball, didn't know why it was in my pencil box, etc. He looks at me doubtfully and says he'll have to get with the principal and figure out what to do with me. The whole evening, I'm still freaking out. My mom has the idea of looking my accuser up in the phone book. I looked that up and confronted him and his father about what was happening. He denied doing anything on the phone. The next day, the kid admitted to the teacher first thing he had planted the ball as a practical joke. Saw the guy years later, and he was trying to be friendly. I found myself still pissed off about this incident. Story 23. Causing severe enough trouble on the bus that it warranted a mid-class trip to see the vice principal. A girl showed up at my study block junior year of high school asking for someone with a name similar to mine, but not my actual name. The teacher sent her away, but she came back a few minutes later insisting this was the right room. The teacher then looked at me and decided close enough and sent me off. Even in hindsight, I say I was a good kid. I never did anything that would get me in trouble. That walk was the longest walk I've ever had in my life, and by the time I got to the office, I was in tears. He sat me down, patiently got me to stammer my name out and what bus I rode, then told me I was definitely not the right person. My teacher looked downright crushed when I came back to class. The vice principal and I were best friends after that, though. Story 24. My first week of high school. I got called into the office because rumors were flying around that I was planning to blow up the school and had already rigged it with explosives. This was obviously news to me. Then about a year later, I had my wisdom teeth removed and missed a week of school. When I finally came back, my friends had to explain the freaked out looks I kept getting from classmates. Apparently a boy who regularly picked at me had vanished from school about the same time I did, and the rumor going around was that I had killed him, eaten him, and then been arrested. Everybody was surprised to see me because they'd spent the past week telling each other about how I was in jail and he was in my stomach. Folks sure make up weird rumors. The boy was fine, FYI, had just been suspended, edit, just woke up, and since this got some traction, I guess I owe everybody some explanations. In fairness to the other kids, I was that weirdo from an abusive home who cracked strange jokes to cope with life. And you know resting face. While I had resting and rage face, I assume a side effect of being a parental punching bag. And in extra fairness to the other kids, I could usually track the rumors back to something stupid ID said. The explosives misunderstanding had to do with old middle school jokes about the gas nozzles in the science labs, mixed with an overheard conversation on the bus that morning where I was arranging to sell extra firecrackers to a guy who only lived a few dirt lanes from where I lived, and of course I never brought any of that to school. To explain the really crazy rumor, I have to tell a bonus story. Not long after that first week of high school, my home life went entirely bonkers and I had to move to another state. I was there for almost a year before circumstances changed again and I had to come back. But I felt it was okay, as I'd already been to that high school previously, knew where everything was, and even had friends. So my first day back, I got my lunch tray, found a table of my friends, and went over to sit with them. But like I say, weird home life, weird sense of humor. So when everyone at the table looked up, surprised I was back, I said, "What? I swear I didn't kill anybody last night." They all freaked. Eventually my best friend calmed everyone down enough to stop screaming, and she explained to my entirely baffled and confused face that the night before an elderly couple had been murdered in their home. Small town, very little crime. My family didn't watch morning news, so I had no idea. I swear, I was just cracking one of my usual jokes. It just hit with crazy timing. I promise I'm better now. Turns out a lot of years away from an abusive childhood, and learning about trust can heal a lot of damage. Story 25. It wasn't the worst, but it definitely hurt. My sister once accused me of stealing her laptop that she had gotten for her birthday. My dad got all pissed and said that I probably stole it so I could sell it or some dumb. He kept telling me to give it back, and I kept saying that I didn't have it. Well, a while later, the little comes out of her room holding the laptop. It turns out that it was under her bed the whole time. Story 26. Anabolic steroids. I was a high jumper on my college's track and field team, and we would have to do urine tests every so often. Well, one of mine came back from the lab positive for anabolic steroids, which give women who take them strong, manly-like features. I was 58 and 125 pounds. Luckily, the lab broke the tests into 2 samples and eventually tested the second sample. showing it was clean. Apparently, the lab had a contaminated batch of test tubes, and the company had to fly reps into my college to apologize to me and a baseball player this both happened to. It was a scary couple weeks. Story 27, I got kicked out of a sit-down restaurant during my company Christmas party for doing drugs in the bathroom. When the manager told me to leave and that they don't allow that behavior here, my boss and 20 other employees vouched for me that I had not left the table for 2 hours the entire duration of the party. The manager called my boss an idiot and made me leave. No one in my company has been back since. Story 28, there was a creative writing class at my high school for seniors. You have to write a creative piece to apply to the class. I wrote a piece and got into the class. The class was in my second semester spring. At the end of the fall semester, my mom takes me out of the class. Why? She accused me of plagiarizing my paper because she thought I didn't write it. She said that it wasn't like papers that I wrote before. I did write it, though. She didn't even have proof. Story 29, I've been accused of assault twice. The first time at the police station, they showed me pictures of the girl who had accused me. She had cuts all over her arms and face that weren't there when I left. This psycho had self-harmed in order to get me in trouble. Police quickly realized that since I was significantly shorter and lighter than her, and I had defensive, not offensive wounds, that I was innocent. Reeling me up, Edit shouldn't have said twice was high when I wrote it. The second time is too recent for me to feel comfortable about writing about online in case it ever came up again. Sorry for the tease. Story 30, purposefully pushing my friend's little sister off the bed and breaking her arm. We were both jumping and she fell, but her older sister and her mom refused to believe that I didn't push her. I was 7 or 8, and the little sister was 3 or 4. It still messes with me that they instantly thought I would do something like that. And it also purposefully throwing bleach at a different kid's face. We were messing around, pretending to interview each other in the kitchen, and I grabbed the bleach that was on the side to use as a mic, but the lid wasn't screwed on, and it fell off, and it ended up squirting bleach at him. I still feel so bad, but how was I supposed to know the lid wasn't screwed on? We were probably both around 10 for that incident. Story 31, I was like 6 or 7, and my family took us to this big house party hosted at our pastor's house. While there, I found the other kids, and we started playing. Well, there were some bars there along some stairs like part of the handle going up. And this girl decided she wanted to play jail and starting pulling on the bars, pretending she was in jail, and she broke the bars. So for the rest of the party, she went around telling everyone, look what Born Slippy did. Well, that got around to the owner of the house, and they weren't happy because they had just renovated it. My parents then had to offer to pay for repairs. All because I was too afraid to tell them it wasn't my fault. Story 32, during holiday seasons, a lot of retail stores hire extra security for their stores to prevent shoplifting. On an important side note, a lot of these security guards get bonuses based on the number of people they catch trying to shoplift. One holiday season, I was shopping at a chain cosmetic store and was accused of shoplifting. Turns out they were sneaking products into my bag when I wasn't looking okay. I was also stupid to put my bag down while trying samples and tapping my shoulder as I was walking out. I did make purchases at that store, but I didn't realize what was in my bag because I paid using Apple Pay on my phone, which doesn't require me to look in my bag. Also, the fact that it was a larger bag that I was exclusively using to put purchased items in because I was holiday shopping for several people. Store people obviously was in it as well, since they didn't care for what I had to say, didn't check cameras on request, because the guards witnessed me putting products in my bag. I also couldn't fight hard because I was an international student on a visa. Expulsion from school meant getting kicked out of the country. Story 33, EX wife. I emphasize EX told her friends I had been beating her physically. I never knew until many of our friends started avoiding me, bad-mouthing me, etc. I finally asked a friend why the change. He said, we know what's been going behind closed doors. Told him I had no idea what he was talking about. She got mad because I wouldn't give her an unlimited amount of spending money. I still have no idea what she spent the first $10,000 on. I had never even touched her, nor threatened to. Story 34, bank robbery. I was early for my first day as a gas jockey in a new city. I was across the street from the gas station, digging through my backpack, when suddenly somebody told me to show them my hands. I was totally confused to look up and see 2 RCMP officers, hands on their sidearms. They didn't draw or anything. Turns out there had been a bank robbery around the corner a few minutes before, and my gas jockey uniform and backpack matched the description. They looked inside my bag containing my brown bag lunch and a paperback, and then they were gone in a flash, apparently. The guy didn't get caught until after another bank robbery in the same area. Story 35, was headed home one night from an evening with friends, walked past a local bar, realized it was closed, turned around and saw a waitress friend sitting on a newspaper box getting friendly with a guy in a flannel shirt. Immediately, I could tell she was just shit-faced drunk, and the guy was getting handsy. I knew she lived in a neighborhood across town and had a boyfriend, so I called out, "Hey, XXXX, you all right?" She looks over, says my name in acknowledgement. I hold on my phone and say, you want me to get you an Uber?" And this look comes across her face, just changes her features. Immediately, she jumps up and runs in the bar next door, runs into the ladies' bathroom. I follow her in to make sure she's all right, intending on getting her that Uber so she could get home safely. Like I said, we were friends, and she tells the bartender there I was trying to, I don't know, that it was me that had my hand up her skirt. Seriously, not sure if in her drunken state she sort of crossed wires between what that guy was doing and me, or if she had been assaulted before and she was triggered, but that the bar turns on me, and I was lucky to have made it out of there. Since that night, I stay the away from bartenders and servers and their little cliques. You want to get finger stuff from an unwashed lumberjack on a newspaper box on a sidewalk. Not my business. Story 36. I was accused of being assaulted by a male friend and lying about it. Male friend and girlfriend had a nasty breakup. Girlfriend's sister announces to the world that male friend assaulted her. Nobody believes her, including girlfriend, mainly because she has a history of this, and she hit on him after the breakup, and he turned her down. I did not know if she was telling the truth. I'm inclined to believe my friend, but I wasn't there, so I can't know. Anyway, girlfriend's sister then announces that he assaulted me on more than one occasion, but that I never reported him and am lying because he's my friend. She claims to have proof that I told her all about it one night, and claims to have emails that she could never produce. She never actually reported anything to the police, just made lots of noise about it in our social circle, and made life difficult for male friend for some time. To clarify, I was never assaulted. Male friend was always a decent human being to me. But for a few months, I had to repeatedly set the record straight with people who had been told otherwise. Story 37. When I was in elementary school, my friend tickled me while I was hanging from the monkey bars. She was very tall for her age and could touch the bars with her feet on the ground. I was super short, so the fall I took when I lost my grip was pretty long, and I had a lot of time to flail and desperately try to grab something to save myself. Unfortunately, my tiny hand found the waistband to her leggings, and I took them to the ground with me. Exposing her undies, she sprinted away and went straight to the principal's office to say that I had pants her on the playground. This being a very weird, small, hyper-religious elementary school, the incident was taken extremely seriously. The principal cautioned me about my obvious perversion, and much ado was made about how this would reflect on my permanent record. Years later, my mom revealed to me that the school was toying with the idea of expulsion. The thought of me as a very small, 6-year-old girl being reprimanded with this level of gravity about this alleged pantsing is so silly now, but it was very scary back then. Story 38. Rape. I was 14 at the time. I went on a double date with a girl and 2 of her mutual friends, and 2 days later, I get a message on AIM from this girl's sister accusing me of raping her. I denied it and thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. This girl then started spreading it to other people. It never got to my parents or the cops that I know of, but I finally told a whole bunch of people in a group chat what happened. Not only did I not rape her, I did not have with her. Not only did I not have with her, I had not had with anybody. Not only had I not had with anybody, I had never seen or touched a vagina in my life. There were 2 people with us literally the entire time we were together. If a crime was committed, she would have witnesses. Eventually, she stopped accusing me, and it went away. I thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. 5 years later, and I worked summers and holidays at a movie theater. My ex, who I was still friends with, worked there as well. The summer after my freshman year of college, a new guy gets hired and finds out we used to date and approaches her and asks if she knew anything about me ever raping a girl. She doesn't know anything about me raping a girl because I never raped a girl, but she asks me, and I immediately know what happened. Yeah, this girl from 5 years ago found out this guy just got hired at the movie theater and said, "I'm so glad. Now I can check with you to get the staff schedule and see when it's working because I never want to go to the movie theater again and come face to face with my rapist." The first time I met the new guy, I told him the whole truth, and I just asked him to tell her that I had decided to consult an attorney because I was not willing to let my name be slandered again. He did. It was 100 a bluff, but I never heard those accusations again. Story 39. Accused of breaking a girl's arm on a bounce house, a local fair when I was like 8 years old. Had been on there only a few seconds, was just doing my thing, and I heard screaming. We all stopped. The girl had an obviously broken arm and pointed at me and said he did it. With her non-broken arm, of course, dude in charge kicked me off. No refund. I found my family and explained it to them, and my uncle said he was recording me on his camcorder when it happened in 1982. The camcorder was the size of a briefcase and ran on VHS tapes, but we had no way to play it back while they went home. Plugged the thing into the VCR and played it back. Absolute 100 that it wasn't me. But then I got a life lesson in how being right doesn't mean you win. My dad pointed out would have to walk 15 minutes back to the bounce house and argue with them. with no way of showing them the video unless they sent someone to our house to watch it, all to get the 10p that I paid for 5 minutes on a bounce house. It would have been, at best, a Pyrrhic victory. Most likely they'd tell us to off. Story 40. I bought a nice DSLR camera and was all excited to get into photography. I walked down the street to the gigantic local park with my new 1000 wide-angle lens and tried to learn the basics of how it worked. After 30 minutes, a bleach-blonde soccer mom kept asking me something, but she was yelling from 100 away, so I couldn't hear her. I approached to see what she wanted, and when I was 30 away, she started screaming I was too close. She then shouted questions at me. Why are you here? What are you doing? Are you taking pictures of my children? Do you have pictures of me? I tried to explain it wasn't a telephoto lens, it was wide angle, and it couldn't take pics of her from all the way across the park, but trying yelling that from 30 away to someone who thinks they're a mama bear only protecting their cubs and are excused any behavior. I told her I only had pics of birds and landscapes. She said, what birds are in? Oh, birds. I shrugged and tried to walk away. She told me if she ever saw me again, she'd call the cops and have me arrested. The playground shoes, I was right next to my car. I basically hid in a corner for an hour trying to get to my car to leave. I put the camera on the shelf and haven't touched it since. Story 41 happened just the other day. I'm a manager at a grocery store. A customer wanted to purchase a $2,900 money order, paying cash. I did not feel comfortable counting that money in the open, so I took it to our cash room. Turns out they only gave me $1,900. I brought it back out, and she said that she'd go to her car and recount. 30 minutes later, I get called into the store manager's office because the woman's mom called and said that she definitely had $2,900, and since I took the money away, that I took $1,000 of it from her. Story 42. I was half asleep when Dad brought my stepmom home after someone drugged her at the bar and set her in the bed across from mine to sleep because she didn't want my little sister seeing her all twisted up like that in the main house. The next morning, she asked me if I raped her while she was out. Took me off guard, and I said no, but never was sure if she believed me. I could be a bit weird. Story 43. Accused of killing my ex-wife by naval investigators while in the USMC. She went to her parents' house while we were stationed out of state. I talked to her a few times, and then a couple weeks later, her parents called asking to talk to her. Told them she's not with me, and told me she was with them. They say they dropped her off at the airport. They think I killed her and am hiding her from them. So they call my command, who called base Navy investigators. They asked me where she is, and I kept telling them I didn't know, and at this point didn't care. It was a real NCIS-style questioning. Eventually they figure out she is staying with a friend locally, and I told them all to eat. Story 44. Got fired from a job for stealing cash out of the register, which was a double whammy because I was putting money into the cash register at the end of my shift to cover shortfalls, which I always had. I really loved my job, so I would cover the shortfall, on average about 10 to 20 of my wages, but it never occurred to me to count the amount of money in the till at the start of my shift. I think I was just so excited to be there, and being young, I couldn't imagine management lying to me. A year later, the manager gets caught stealing from a till. She had been doing it for years and blaming staff, high turnover of staff. Because of this, police go to press charges, but the owner says no and tells them that they will take care of it internally. True plot twist. The business was owned by the mafia. Story 45. Well, not accused, more like suspected. I was hanging with my circle of friends. The evening news came on, story about some creepo reported sneaking into elementary schools and hanging out in the bathrooms. Nothing happened at this point, just some scared kids, and he wasn't caught. But due to multiple eyewitnesses, they were able to display a fail-free confident police sketch. It was 100 me. In the deafening silence that followed, all my friends turned slowly to look at me. One said, "No kidding, him calling the cops."